Uncertainty is the greatest fear for the perfectionist, the person that wants to be perfect in everything they do. Their greatest fear is the fear of uncertainty. Now, why is this? The impossible desire of perfection will always be partnered with the shadow of uncertainty. This is because uncertainty for the perfectionist becomes a shadow that follows them around in everything that they do, especially if they want to accomplish something of a great goal that they put themselves in high standards towards. The more they carry a perfectionistic attitude, the more their own sense of self-worth will decline in relation to the ideal of perfection. This is because perfection, as a way of life, is the highest form of self-comparison. And as we know, self-comparison is sin. Self-comparison to an impossible ideal, which leads to an inevitable self-deprecation to the highest degree. You could say even maybe it's a mental form of self-flagellation, as the early Christians would do. And obviously this is for spiritual reasons, but I think the right way of saying it is flagellate, when you'd be whipping yourself to an ideal that you're trying to attain towards. Mentally, the perfectionist is very much the same thing, because they have an ultimate ideal that they really want to strive towards. But it's not possible because their conception of perfection is faulty. This is why perfectionism, which is always coupled with uncertainty as a negative fuel, acts as a negative fuel for the individual to constantly overthink their efforts, leading to perpetual self-doubt and eventual self-sabotage. Now, the tension between both a strong sense of uncertainty and desire for perfection becomes so great that it leads to procrastination, because any sense of achievement ends up automatically feeling like an impossible task. It doesn't feel like you could achieve anything. So the best way to view it is in this kind of way. In terms of a diagram, you have two circles and they both interlace each other to the point where there's an intersection. One circle, which is it's a duality. One of the circles is the fear of uncertainty, and this comes along with perfectionism. And then the other is the desire for perfection. And when two interlace each other, what you get in the middle is analysis paralysis or procrastination. Because there's such a tension between both of these things. There's so much of a friction. It's very much near impossible to actually get anything done, because two strict polar opposites just creates friction. It doesn't create a solution, it creates a problem. So when the individual is faced with this fundamental issue of analysis paralysis or paralysis analysis, or however you want to say it, is avoidance. If that's the outcome, the only way to escape that outcome, which ultimately isn't a solution, it's not what they want, the only way to escape that is for avoidance, and that would be procrastination. Avoidance, therefore, becomes the only way to deal with this crippling state of analysis paralysis, which ultimately leads them to complete inaction itself with regards to what they want to attain, what they want to do for themselves. And that is how the fear of uncertainty and desire for perfection creates analysis paralysis. And this is really, I would say, from the work I've done with clients and the work I've done with people, is that this is kind of an objective statement from me. It's kind of how it works. The analysis paralysis usually comes from this thing of there being such high standards that are not achievable. And there's also a tendency for the individual to really look down upon failure or the necessity of failure, and how they don't, or the individual doesn't view how failure can actually catalyze their potential and their fundamental projection with regards to what they're trying to be a master at, or what they're trying to be very talented and gifted and skilled at. So that also is something that is a side effect of that kind of the perfectionist. They don't like failure. They deem it as something that isn't desirable, but actually it is. Because the only way to actually succeed with anything is to constantly pound yourself into failure. And I usually always give the analogy of, if you go to the gym, the only way you can grow a immaculate physique is if you constantly break down your body in the sense of muscular failure. You always fail. Always approaching failure so that your body recovers and comes back stronger. It's the same with anything else. It's the same with any kind of ability for you to develop a skill. You need to fail, and from the recovery of failure, you learn how to perfect in reality, because the idea of perfectionism and idealism is very much imaginative. With someone who is a perfectionist, they get rid of the idea of necessity or failure. But perfection is, in a sense, it's not obviously possible to reach, but it is much more possible to kind of go towards, mastery in that sense, to be a master at something if you do fail. But someone who's a perfectionist, they'll look at perfection and not think about the idea of failure. They'll be in fear of failure. They'll be in fear of uncertainty. So really, the perfectionist needs to view these things in the sense of mastery. How do you become a master at something? Don't view it in the sense of, oh, how do I become perfect at this thing? That's a faulty way of looking at it. How do you become a master? How do you master a certain skill or a certain thing that you're trying to attain? The only way you can do that is through failure. You constantly fail. You learn from the mistakes, and then you apply what you learn. And that is what wisdom is. That's what wisdom is. So that is the problem, the fundamental tension that you have with the perfectionist is the fear of uncertainty, the desire of perfection, and they rub off against each other. There's a friction, there's a problem, there is no solution. There's two problems coming in contact with each other, and then ultimately creating paralysis. The individual becomes frozen. Now, if you want to learn any techniques in how to break out of this perfectionistic tendency with regards to yourself, or if you struggle with anything with regards to bad habits, having a poor routine, wanting to break out of perfectionistic cycles, wanting to work on self-limiting beliefs, as that is a massive aspect of perfectionism, which is self-limiting beliefs and the trauma in relation to past, to present, and how it's affecting you and affecting the way you think and the patterns you use for yourself to think about your future and about your present life at this moment. If that is something you are interested in doing, then book a free one-on-one anti-procrastination program discovery call with me, and we can see how I can apply my solutions to your situation, and you can explain to me the problems that you're dealing with on a daily basis that are a struggle for you. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, comment, thoughts down below, and I'll speak to you in the next one.